Hello, everybody, and welcome to Project HR, a podcast dedicated to building better workplaces. Project HR is brought to you by Projections, North America's leading provider of employee communication resources, including video, websites, e-learning, social media, and virtual events to help you connect with your team. For more information, you can visit us online at projectionsinc.com. I am Jennifer Oraquah, COO of Projections, and your host for today's episode of Project HR. Now, what do you think of when you hear the word swagger? It likely conjures up images of brash, in-your-face types, show-offs who value style over substance, more confident perhaps than they are competent. Our guest today is taking on that word, redefining it to make it something far more valuable. Joining us today is Leslie Ehm, President and Chief Firestarter, love that, at Combustion Training. She is also a coach, a speaker, and the author of Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. Leslie, I have been looking forward to talking with you for the longest time. Welcome to Project HR.
It is such a pleasure to be here. This has been a big one for me. I was excited about this one.
Excellent. And honestly, ever since we had Brent Menswar on Project HR, and he mentioned how inspiring your book was, I've been just so excited about this episode. So first, tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to write this book.
Well, I've been in the training game since about 2008, and I've been incredibly fortunate to have been able to literally travel the world and train some of the best organizations on the planet. The thing that I discovered was regardless of the country or the culture or the company or the level of expertise or the title, no matter what subject matter I was training on, be it presentation skills or communication skills, creativity, leadership, I discovered one fundamental human truth that people did not believe that they could reveal themselves and still succeed. They did not believe that who they were at their core was good enough to bring them the success that they were dreaming of. And when I realized this as kind of the underlying, general human factor to everything that I did, it changed my entire life. And I thought, this is my purpose. This is what I want to focus on. And so I identified that quality as being swagger, the thing that people were aspiring to and couldn't quite figure out how to connect to. So that informed everything that I did for years and years for training. And I finally said, I gotta put this in a book because I cannot clone myself. I cannot travel to the four corners of the planet at the same time. And it's making a difference in people's lives. So that was the beginning of the swagger book quest.
Very good. So let's talk about the old definition of swagger, particularly as it relates to work and workplaces and why you felt like that needed to just go.
Well, we're all seeking this thing, this external confidence. That's what everyone is dreaming of. If I could just show up looking like I'm more in control and I'm more of a badass and I'm more strong and assertive and all of those negative things that we associate with swagger, that show-offy, peacocky, loud, in your face, brash kind of thing. That seemed to be what people wanted to have in the workplace. They wanted to really be able to show themselves off. And that does not work. That is not the answer. That is not going to satisfy the thing that they're looking for. So that is old bad swagger. We don't want to do that.
So what's the new definition of swagger then?
This is important. The new definition of swagger is it's the ability to manifest who you really are and hold on to it in the face of all of that psychological crap that's going to come for it, regardless of the situation or environment. So you have one face. You are the same no matter what. You show up, you're able to hold your center, regardless of the stuff that's coming at you from all sides. You know who you are and you're good with it.
So it's really about coming to terms with and really becoming your authentic self.
Absolutely. It is so much more about self-acceptance than it is about self-assuredness.
Nice. So authenticity is one of those words we hear a lot in business today. And I appreciate you coming right out and asking, what the hell is authenticity anyway in the book, because I think it's one of those things that often goes undefined. How do you define it?
Well, I think we all have a voice in our head that speaks truth to us and reminds us of what we truly value, what we believe in, the things that we want to say out loud and we don't, the things that make us special and different and unique, and maybe things that we're afraid of or that we don't think are valuable. But I think many of us know those things, but they haven't figured out how to manifest them in a way that they feel is valuable. So I think at our core, authenticity is who we were in 10th grade. If you want to know who you are and you're not sure, go ask someone who you've been friends with since 10th grade. They'll
Uh-huh.
tell you, because you probably haven't changed so much in their eyes, despite the fact that you've developed this persona, this veneer that you trot into work every day. And if they came into the boardroom and watched you in action, they would probably pee themselves laughing at this person you've become. They'd be like, dude, who are
Mhm.
you? You know?
Mhm.
But they still love you for the same reasons that they did all those years back.
Mhm. Mhm. Interesting. So, Leslie, we're going to take a quick sponsorship break right now. When we return, we're going to discuss ways that we can begin to find that authentic self and discover the swagger within. So, stay with us.
Are you new to labor relations or working in HR and ta-da, now need labor relations skills? Today's sponsor, Union Proof Certification, has got you covered. Union Proof Certification is a comprehensive online course in labor relations that will help you get the knowledge you need to understand what's at stake, the language used by unions and attorneys, the resources available for assistance, and how you can turn a potentially frightening situation into a positive one. You can learn more at unionproof.com/certification. Learn years of labor relations knowledge at your own pace and earn 24 SHRM or HRCI credits at the same time.
And we're back with Leslie Ehm, President and Chief Fire Starter at Combustion Training and the author of Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. Now, Leslie, I want to dig a little bit into the relationship between the old swagger and the new swagger. I find that really interesting, and that the old one seems to be all about hiding or disguising the new one. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think that they're two extremes of the same desire. You know, the reason that people manifest the old swagger is because they want to be noticed. They want to be accepted. They want to be loved. They want to be appreciated. And the irony is that by manifesting that old bad swagger, they're actually keeping people at bay. They're not allowing people to actually love and see and accept them and recognize them for who they really are. So it's this weird self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? Why doesn't anybody appreciate me or recognize me, or why don't I feel like people get me? Well, it's because you don't show them who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they do give you appreciation and acknowledgement, you can't really claim it because they're not digging on the real you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the new swagger, the good swagger, yes, it requires courage. And yes, it requires you to drop those defenses and move who you really are out into the world. But by the same token, when you get validation and appreciation and recognition, you're getting it for who you really, really are. And that matters for everything. That'll fill
Mm-hmm.
you up all day long.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So when you bring typical workplace cultures into this equation, it's kind of a chicken and an egg kind of a thing. Did workplace culture encourage those old swagger habits, or do those habits define what workplace culture is?
Ooh, I think again, we're caught in this endless loop because we so often believe that that's what's expected of us to behave in certain ways. And so we behave in those certain ways because of that
Mm,
self-imposed expectation. And yet, when so many of us look to the people in our work cultures that we respect and we admire, the people we want to work for, the people we want to have mentor us, they're the ones with the most good swagger. They're transparent, they're accessible, they express a degree of vulnerability, they're
mhm,
honest, they speak their truth, they're able to connect with us on a human level. So we want to have their counsel, we want to be around them, but we're too afraid to actually emulate that behavior because there will always be people who are trapped in this paradigm. You know, I
mm.
refer to them as blockers, and they're stuck in that paradigm and they go back and forth and back and forth. And you can really do a number on yourself because you can convince yourself for sure that old swagger is the way to go. for sure.
Sure.
Because, the part of the reason that you tell yourself that is because you can then lay blame at the feet of other people. You can say, well, they didn't really know who I was, so of course they couldn't appreciate everything that I was. Well, okay. And, whereas they're terrified that if they do show themselves to be authentic, that if people do criticize them, that it's really going to hurt. It's really going to go in deep because they are now criticizing the person, not the persona. So I get why it exists, and the struggle is very, very real for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the only way that this is ever going to change is human by human by human, because that's what culture is. It's a collective of humans that have a shared mindset. And if we don't take on the responsibility for our own swagger, we can't model it for anybody else. We can't express the benefits to anybody else. And believe me, when you unleash your swagger, your life is better. I have yet in my years and years and working with thousands of people had anyone say to me, I unleashed my swagger and my life got worse. Now, don't get me wrong. They may have said it was really hard. I had to face struggles and I had to challenge this and I had to face down that and I had to speak up for myself like this. But in the end, it was so much better. So I think it's we dream of culture that will support and embrace the psychological safety that is required to make people feel like they can take those courageous steps to express and engage their swagger. But we can't make it their responsibility, because otherwise it ain't going to happen, and we remain stuck and we blame other people.
Yeah, for sure. So I think most of us at some point in our careers, usually early on, somebody tells us to fake it till we make it. That's sort of the mindset. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you think about it?
Worst advice ever.
I thought you might say that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. It's bad. It's wrong. And let me tell you why. I'm going to break it down, because once you hear this, you're going to go, oh my God, yes, this makes so much sense. All right. So the thing that we're trying to fake till we make is confidence. We're trying to trick people into believing that we have more than we currently do. We're more capable, we're more experienced, we're more, adept, all of those things. But here is the secret. When it comes to confidence, it does not happen as a result of the pixies sprinkling it upon you. It is not a magical thing.
Sure.
You can only have confidence as a result of competence. Only by doing something over and over and over again and proving to yourself that, yeah, I got this. I know how to do this. I got a baseline of expertise. I've done it in a bunch of scenarios. I got this covered. Only then can you have legitimate confidence. So you can't fake that you can't trick that paradigm. It's not something that can be tricked. Because every time you try and do something new or different or go out of your comfort zone or stretch yourself, you're not going to have what is legit confidence. You're going to be back into that building the competence kind of thing. And that is the way that it works. The other problem is that if you pretend that you know it all and you got it all covered, you limit your ability to get better and smarter, because you can't ask for help, because you've been walking around telling everybody, I got this. I'm on it. I know everything.
Right.
I'm like a master. And then you can't reach out to people and say, actually, you know what? Not so much. Can you please help to fill in my gaps? Can you please support me? And there's no smarter, better way in this world to be better than to sit at the feet of people who you think have great wisdom and say, oh, great person with great wisdom. Might I sit at your feet and learn from you, because I think you're brilliant. No one in the world ever said no to that.
Right.
They went, really? Absolutely. You think I'm smart and adept and great? Yes, let me shower my stuff on you. And there's also, we have science to back up this whole notion that fake it till you make it does not work. There was a study done at Cornell called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what they were looking at was what happens when you try and convince yourself that you're better than you are, that you have more skills than you do. And what they discovered, first of all, was that those people who did the whole fake it till you make it, they developed or they did not develop an ability to make good decisions because those decisions weren't informed. But they had to pretend that they knew enough to make these great decisions. So they had to make crappy decisions and then stand by them, which is really detrimental, as we know, to every organization. Plus, over time, they started to, believe their own hype. They started to actually believe that they were better, smarter, faster, than they actually were, which was a guaranteed recipe for ignorance and arrogance.
Sure.
So across the board, it really is something that we shouldn't do. Now, having said that, there is something you can rely on, and that is self-belief. Because self-belief does not require you to know everything. It requires you to believe that you can jump off the cliff and you're not going to die.
Right.
Yes, you might hit a few branches on the way down, you might bounce, but you also might fly, you might float. And you know that the worst possible thing is not going to happen to you. You say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to be okay. I'm going to take a flyer and I'm going to be okay. And self-belief is absolutely critical for those times when you are out of your confidence/competence zone, when you are taking risks, when you are trying to get to the next level or the next place, and you're back to that, I don't know everything. That's when self-belief is a critical factor, and it's a key driver for your swagger.
For sure. So let's get into it. How do we go about finding our own swagger?
Well, the first thing is, our own swagger is basically who we are. So we don't have to find our swagger so much. We have to unleash our swagger. That's the challenge, because it is there, stuck in the very middle of who we are. So if you imagine that the core of who you are is this beautiful, nugget. It's this beautiful ball of potency and power and personality, all of those things that make you special and unique and different. Now let's imagine that there are 5 concentric rings that gravitate out. These are your blockers. This is what's stopping your swagger from being unleashed. So I want to start from the outer ring, because it's the one that's closest to the world and it's the one that's furthest away from you. And that is persona. Persona is that feeling that you've got to show up a certain way, you got to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, dress and behave a certain way in order to be taken seriously and to be accepted by the tribe. That's why everybody shows up at work looking pretty much the same. That's why we use business speak. That's why we are so eager to assimilate into our corporate culture, because it gives us that false sense of security around belonging. It's a heavy coat that we put on every single day, and it hides who we really are. So we now have persona as our first blocker. So let's go one layer in. Why do we buy into this persona blocker? Well, it's because of ambition. And don't get me wrong, ambition in and of itself is a fantastic thing. I think we all should be as ambitious as we possibly can, but not when it causes us to be different than we would be authentically. And what happens is that when we are blindly ambitious, we tend to focus upwards on the next rung of the ladder. That's our fixation, is what's coming next, what's up there, how do I get up there with all of the next level people. And when we fixate on that, what we don't do is focus inwards. We don't focus to the left and right of us where our peers and colleagues are, and we sure as heck don't focus down on our followers. But the truth is, we can't be leaders without our followers, and we cannot ascend without the support and the approval of our peers and colleagues. So instead of focusing upwards, if you focus left and right and you focus down, and you make sure that you are in your place of excellence, you are contributing to the collective with your excellence to the best of your ability, and you're trying to make everybody and everything better, then those colleagues and peers and those followers will lift you. You don't have to fixate so much on that ladder and getting to the next level. But that's, we do it because we believe that it's the only way that we can get to that next level. So now we have ambition reinforcing persona. Well, what is the big driver for ambition? Next layer in is insecurity, which we touched on before. Insecurity is all of those what ifs. What if I don't show up a certain way? What if I don't get the attention of that boss? What if I don't walk this way or talk this way? All of those what ifs keep us in this constant place of questioning where there are no answers. And we will behave in all kinds of crazy ways to alleviate the pain of it and to try and move as far away from those feelings of insecurity as possible, including things like fake it till you make it. So now you have insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. What is the driver for and the reinforcer for insecurity? It's fear. Fear is the end of the what if. It's the answer. What if I don't? What if I do? What if I can't? Fear says bad things will happen. That's how it ends every single sentence, with bad things will happen. And it's conditioned by every bad thing that's happened to you before, all of the things that all the tapes that play in your head, all of the things that you've been told to move away from or move towards in your life. And again, the brain cannot differentiate between I'm afraid my boss is going to give me the side eye fear and a tiger is going to eat me fear. Fear is fear, and it's potent and powerful, and we will do anything to avoid it. So how best to avoid anything fearful? Well, just assimilate. Just don't take risks. Just stay in your little zone, and then you got nothing to worry about. So now we have fear reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. The last layer in is a doozy. It's the big one. It's the scar tissue, the castle gates, the moat that separates you from your swagger being presented. And that's pain, because pain is proof. Pain says, oh, I did that one time and it did not go well. It hurt like a you know what, and I am never doing that again. I'm never sticking my head out again. I'm never taking that risk. I'm never speaking up again. And it has a way of picking up all the bad things that have happened to you in this life that have taken those little nicks and chunks out of your heart and your soul over time, and holding on to them for dear life as reminders. So we can, again, we become a sum of our historical experiences, as opposed to saying, well, is this something that is going to cause me that level of pain right now in this situation? We just go, no, pain bad. No, I'm not doing it. And so there we are, stuck behind all of those layers. And when we do find the courage to speak our truth, that truth now has to navigate and negotiate its way through all of those blockers. And it's like, that show American Ninja, how they have to run that gauntlet and things are being thrown at them and those big things and they have to like twist themselves into a pretzel and swim and climb and swing. That's what your truth has to do to get through each one of those blockers. And each one of the blockers is going to take its hit, and it's going to minimize and it's going to diminish your truth. And so what gets out at the other end of it is a little squeak. It can be a roar on the inside, but by the time it gets out there, it's a little squeak. And then even if your squeak gets recognized or validated by the people around you, best squeak ever. That was awesome. You are awesome. What a squeaker. That validation then has to make its way back through the same freaking gauntlet, getting the chunks kicked out of it every single time in order to get back into the core of you, to fill you up and to make you stronger for the next fight. So the very long answer to the question is the secret is in breaking down those blockers one by one by one. Because for most of us, it's just this big, overwhelming swirl that feels like a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity, a lot of stuff. Yeah. And it's overwhelming and it's daunting. It's unnavigable. And that's part of the problem. So the reason I created this visual model is so that people could identify and recognize, where do I really get stuck? Where do I get the most stuck, the least stuck? And now I want to work on those little pieces, one by one by one, because swagger is a journey. It's an ongoing journey. It is not a switch that gets flipped. You don't wake up one day and say, that's it. I am unleashing my swagger. Here I come, world. Watch out.
Right?
You're going to have courage. You're going to get knocked back. You're going to have to take steps. And, again, because I come from the training background, I was all pragmatic about this. This is not a book that is just about woo woo.
Mhm.
Go speak your truth to the world.
Mm.
It gives you exercises, multiple exercises for each one of those blockers. Here are tangible, practical ways to start facing those things down.
Mhm.
Because we got to do a lot of reprogramming, a lot of recording over, a lot of facing down, a lot of holding the mirror up to ourselves. All of those things are going to be necessary, but
Mhm.
they are so doable.
Mhm. And you kind of touched on what the swagger drivers are, but can you get a little bit more into that and explain what those are?
Well, all we have in this world, number one, is our truth.
Mhm.
The words that we say and how we act, that's the only thing that people can judge us on, is that. So that carries who we are authentically out into the world, is our truth. Not the censored, not the filtered, but the genuine things that we want and need to say in this world. So the number one driver of swagger is truth. The second one is intention. It's the why do we want to speak this truth? Why do we feel like it's important to be said? And here's the thing about intention, it is the true north for your swagger. Because if your intention is simply to take someone's credit, or it's to show yourself up in a meeting as being better than somebody else, or if it's to be a troublemaker, or if it's to ascend at all costs, you're going to get what you deserve. It's not going to go well for you. I can tell you that. But if your intention is to somehow serve the collective and contribute to the greater good, it will go much, much, much better. And believe me,
Sure.
you can serve yourself at the same time as you are serving the greater good and the collective.
Mhm.
So I'm not talking about putting yourself second here and saying, I give myself over to the service of the collective, but I don't care about myself. No, those things have to be integrated.
Mhm.
But it tells you, why am I doing this? And it also is something that you can explain to people. Let me tell you why I'm going to say this right now, or let me tell you why this is important that I say this.
Mm.
So it helps people to understand where you're coming from. Because so often that's why our truth gets misinterpreted, because people don't understand where we're coming from. And if we're coming from a place that is positive and is genuine and is generous, people have a lot more time and energy for our truth. And the last one is that self belief that I talked about. Self belief is the thing that's going to get you up in the morning every day and say, I'm going to break down the barriers and
Mhm.
bring my swagger out into the world. I believe I have what it takes. And I believe that I have the right to unleash my swagger into this world.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Leslie, we're going to take some time out for a quick break. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to the Project HR podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Oraqua, and our guest today is Leslie Ehm, President and Chief Firestarter at Combustion Training and the author of Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. And we are back. So, Leslie, vulnerability, I think, is key to discovering your new swagger, and that's such a tough take for a lot of people. So, when you're coaching people and teams, how do you bring them to a place where they feel safe enough to bring down those walls?
Well, it's actually a very different process, because when I'm working with teams, it's my responsibility to create that safe environment, even if it's just for a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and create an atmosphere where I can contain what is going to happen in that space or in that room. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a pretty fierce character, and I can contain a lot. I make sure that I set the rules very, very clearly. And I remind people that this is an opportunity that they have, and that I will make sure that nothing bad happens to them. And then when I encourage them to start to reveal who they are a little bit more genuinely, a little bit more authentically, just give me a hint, give me a show, give me a little taste.
Mm-hmm.
What I then do is get feedback from the rest of the room about what the difference was in this person before and after. And inevitably, every single person says, oh my God, so much better. It doesn't matter what the subject matter was. They say so much better. And then I say, okay, next person, next person. And everybody wants to be the so much better. That's what I find. And then when everyone has experienced a little taste of it, I say, You know, the wonder that you had watching that person up there speaking their truth or revealing, who they really were, breaking through that persona, and you saw the magic that happened to you too.
Mm.
And nothing bad happened, only good things happened. I think that when we reveal ourselves to other people and we reveal that we are human and flawed and messy and beautifully, perfectly imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
we give other people the opportunity to say, I know, me too, right?
Right.
And if we don't do that, they're never going to be able to say it. And everybody thinks that everybody has it together more than they do. What the
Right.
heck? Why is it
Right.
that everybody thinks that everybody else is in better shape than they are? I mean, just the law of averages would
Mhm.
dispute that. It's not
Sure.
possible. It's
Right.
not possible, right? So only through vulnerability do we validate that.
Very nice. So our listeners can, of course, read your book and work on this on their own. But your company, Combustion Training, offers workshops and coaching services and events that focus on finding your swagger, right?
Yeah, we have a whole host of things, but at the core, whether it's leadership, presentation skills, creativity skills, communication, all of those things have swagger at their root because we are looking to create those kind of environments that reset people's willingness to reveal who they really are. And we do offer swagger programs, which are my favorite to do because I
Mhm.
get my hands up to my elbows. I get stuck into people's psyches and their hearts, and we get to really form these beautifully bonded groups. So that's work that I love to do, and I'm continuing to develop this work all the time because I learn more every single day. Even though
Mhm.
I wrote the book on swagger, I still will always have so much to learn, and I learn every time I'm in the room with people. I actually created a companion workbook for the book, even though the book is
Yeah.
chock a block with exercises. First of all, the book is so pretty that I didn't know if people were going to want to mark it up because it's so beautiful.
Uh-huh.
So I created a workbook where I extracted out all of the exercises and created space for them to be filled in because you got
Mm.
to do the work. You
Mhm.
cannot just do this up in your head. You have to do the work.
Sure.
But I also added a whole bunch of bonus exercises. So you
Ah.
really could move through this experience by yourself if you wanted to,
Mhm.
or with the help of the swagger queen herself to help you work through it. And I love doing it when it's with coaching because it's very intimate. But I also love the training aspect because we do it together. We become our own swagger collective and we really start to change culture that way, which is a
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful thing.
Mhm. So how can our listeners get in touch with you to find out more about you, about Combustion Training, or about swagger?
Oh, I'm on all the socials. So I will list all my socials. Like combustionco.com is the training website. You can
Okay.
find me for coaching and for speaking on leslieem.com.
Okay.
Check out swaggerthebook.com for all things swaggerlicious. On LinkedIn, I'm at Leslie M. On Facebook, I'm at Leslie M Speaks. On Instagram, at Leslie M Speaks.
Uh-huh.
And on Twitter, at Leslie M. And you come and talk to me because I will answer every single one of you.
You
That's my
totally
whole jam. I know I might have just opened myself up to some craziness, but I
right.
swear to you, I get so excited when people reach out to say, I heard this, or I read that, or I was inspired by this, because this is why I've been put on this planet. So you are not bugging me. You are not interfering with my life. If you need to talk to me for 3 hours, it's a whole different thing. But please, I really invite people to connect with me because it reminds me that it's working, that the message of
Mhm.
swagger is connecting with people. And that is everything for me.
Speaking of talking with you for 3 hours, I know you've been pretty active on Clubhouse. Where can people find you there?
Oh, I'm at Leslie M on Clubhouse, and I have a regular Clubhouse room on Mondays at 4 p.m. EST. So
Mhm.
please come and join. I am loving Clubhouse with such a
Yep.
passion.
Yep.
It's like old school chat rooms, but
Exactly. Yeah.
mixed with the podcast that's interactive. And
Mhm.
I have met the most incredible people and heard the most amazing stories. And everything that we talk about in my Swagger Collective room is all things that relate to swagger, but in so many different ways. So, hey, if you've got an idea for a subject matter for a Swagger Collective, bring it, bring it. And I will find people to co-host with me and we'll have an amazing time. I would love to see you all there.
Outstanding. Yeah. I want to let our listeners know that a link to Combustion Training's website, as well as links to Leslie's book, Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want, will be included in this episode's companion guide. So be sure to unlock that today at projectionsinc.com/podcast. Right now, though, Leslie, it is time for our lightning round questions, and these are questions we ask of every guest in the podcast. Are you ready?
Bring it.
All right. So first is our topic showdown. In this episode, we've been talking about swagger. So Leslie, in your expert opinion, which of these Star Trek captains has the right kind of new swagger? Captain Kirk or Captain Picard?
Oh, Captain Picard all day long. That is one beautiful, soulful, delicious man. He's got all the good swagger.
Love that. And of course, you came to us through this next question I asked of another guest. What's the best book that you've read recently?
Well, I gotta give props back to Brant Menswar from Black Sheep because it's a game changer, life changer. But something that I was actually given, just like Brant was, I was given to read to endorse it. And I went, I have just found my Bible. It's called The Self-Employed Life by Jeffrey Shaw.
Okay.
And if you are someone who works for themselves, has a side hustle, has ever dreamed of this, knows somebody who is in that game, this book will be the only book they will ever need. It's really an unbelievable book. This man is in his place of purpose and knows what self-employed humans need to succeed.
That is quite the endorsement. So tell me, what's your favorite thing about helping people find their swagger?
Oh, are you kidding? I mean, what's not my favorite thing about that? To think that I'm very much about legacy work. I want to know that when I'm gone, I will have contributed to human beings feeling better and more proud and more connected and happier. And the impact that that has on their own lives and so on and so on. So the fact that I can be in service of that and see the impact and know that that impact is going to be far-reaching through all of their worlds. Are you kidding me? That is better than ice cream.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
My mom raised me with this. Whenever we wanted something, my sister and I, whenever we had a dream, whenever we had an aspiration, she would say to us, "Why not you?" And then she would wait for an answer. And even if we came up with a crappy answer about why not us, she would break it down. Let me tell you, she would break it down and tell us why we were patently wrong. So why not you? Asking yourself, why not you, is the most beautiful question you can ask yourself, because the answer is, why not you?
I feel like the next question is going to be tied to the last answer, but who or what inspires you?
Gotta be my mom. My mom was the most epic human being on the planet. She passed away. It was actually her birthday yesterday, and she passed away a couple of years ago. My mother died when she was 79, and she had 40,000 followers on Twitter at the time.
Wow.
Because this was not an average mother. My mother was the founder of the women's independent travel movement. She was known as Journey Woman, and that was what her movement and her collective was called. And she was traveling the globe up until the time that she got sick and passed away. My mother was a certified badass, more swagger in her little finger than anybody could ever have, and gave my sister and I such an incredible gift through the way that she raised us. My father, too. I got to give massive props to my father. But my mother's voice is in my head every minute of every day, the good and the bad, but it's there every minute of every day. So for sure, my mom.
Clearly inspirational. Thanks so much for joining me today on this week's episode of Project HR, Leslie.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks too to our listeners. And once again, this is your reminder to grab the companion guide for this episode at projectionsinc.com/podcast. If you'd like to be on Project HR or know someone who would, feel free to email us at projecthr@projectionsinc.com. On Twitter and Facebook, you can find us at Projections, and on LinkedIn at Projections Inc. And last, but certainly not least, to make sure you never miss an episode of Project HR, I hope you subscribe to the podcast. Drop us a line, leave us a review, or simply rate us a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's it from me for now. Let's make it a great day at work.